Good morning. Happy Wednesday, Alabama fans. Welcome to another episode of Roll Pod preview edition for Missouri. Alabama coming off a 30-14 win over Vanderbilt. You can go watch a great recap and all coverage that Mike and Alex have on Bama247, but it's time to flip the page to Missouri. Again, Alabama traveling to Columbia on Saturday for 11 a.m. kickoff. Mike Rodak will be there. Mike, Alex, how are we doing mid-Missouri week?
Good. It's weird to think about this game as, it's no longer a trap game, is it? I mean, it's what we keep hearing. But it's still an interesting game for Alabama coming off of two emotional wins and having to go on the road, 11 a.m. There are trappy elements, even if Missouri doesn't qualify as an unranked team, for some people to be a trap opponent.
It's funny you brought up trap because I don't believe it's like, I think Kalen DeBoer talked about it, the players talk like it, they're undefeated, they're ranked. It's not, there is elements like you said, Mike. I'm interested. You've always circled this game as well. Is it a trap game? Is this what the SEC is?
Schedule. I don't know if that necessarily makes it a trap game. I think, yes, it's a morning kickoff. It's a smaller stadium. It's a team that you're just not traditionally going to get up for naturally. It's not LSU. It's not Tennessee. It's not Auburn. It's not Georgia. So it's not even like A&M. Like, I think I was looking back. This is a 3-point spread in this game, which is kind of crazy for a Missouri-Alabama game based on recent history. I think the most comparable game was at A&M a few years ago. It was a 2.5-point spread, but A&M's a 100,000-seat stadium. Like, that place is a coliseum. Like, this is not that.
57,000?
Right. It's like it's been a while since the spread has been this low. It's an interesting game. It's the closest thing to a trap game under schedule, but I don't know if they have a true trap game. It's not like was the Kentucky game 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. That's one where Saban was putting out mouse traps around the facility. And Kentucky, as we know, they're coached by Mark Stoops, so they're a bad team. And by that point in the season, everybody was paying attention to basketball in Lexington, and Alabama had come off its win against LSU. And Kentucky came out and did Kentucky things in that game, and Alabama did what it needed to do. So they avoided the trap in this game. And this particular game, this Missouri game, I think like it's potentially two good teams going at it. Yeah. Now, Missouri, everybody's going to talk about it. Their schedule has not been good. That's obvious. UMass, home and home with UMass is about as easy as it gets as far as non-conference home and homes. And they generally have not won the big games under Eli Drinkwitz. I think the exception is probably Tennessee 2 years ago. I believe it was actually the same day as that Alabama-Kentucky game. They destroyed Tennessee that day. That's really their biggest win, I would say, under Eli, unless you want to count a bowl game against Ohio State. So, they have something to prove themselves. But this is probably a better Missouri team than last year. That would be fair to say because of their running game. Especially what Alabama saw out of Missouri last year, which was Brady Cook going down. And then, was it Drew Pine? Throwing picks after that. So it's not a trap game, but it's the trappiest of their games would be my statement.
I remember that Drew Pine. I think it was the first interception was one of the worst I've come across last fall. But that was something. We will dive deep into the Missouri matchup. I do want to talk about the NCAA came out with the transfer portal has been a big talk of college sports forever. It kind of feels like I was talking about right before we came on. NCAA does extreme right and then extreme left. Kind of their decision makings is never really kind of in between. The transfer portal has been insane. There hasn't been really any guardrails. It's crazy. It's just a wild west. It's crazy to follow. There seem to be kind of putting on some guardrails, but this new one, Mike, I know you've been a little bit more detailed on. I don't know if you want to you take the reins and we can just
right. So, I mean, it's been a discussion. Obviously, people think the portal's open too long. They think it's open at the wrong times. They're concerned about losing players. there's no perfect way of doing it. And I think they tried to find a closer alternative by eliminating the spring portal, which that's a double-edged sword, because sometimes teams will go through the spring and they'll realize they have a hole in their roster or they have an injury and they need to fill it. And the spring portal has allowed teams. What?
I said, well, that's football.
But that has allowed some teams. I mean, Alabama tried to do that a couple years ago under Saban. They went out and got Tyler Harrell out of the portal because they thought they needed a speedy receiver. It didn't really work out. But even Alabama this past spring went out and got a couple of tight ends out of the portal in the spring. So
Landon Dickerson a couple years ago, they wanted that was
that was late. Even that was like June, I think, is when they picked him up, and that was a huge addition for that team in 2019. So it's a double-edged sword. I think it will help. The fact that they're getting rid of the spring portal will help spring games maybe come back, and coaches being less scared about that. But one of the big complaints about the winter portal was that it happens in December when a lot of teams are still, not a lot of teams, but some teams are still in the playoff. And then it kind of creates you're trying to coach your current team while building your future team. And a lot of coaches were concerned about that. And so that led to the portal being pushed back officially yesterday from December. I think it was the Monday after conference championship games to now it's January 2nd through the 16th. And they also shortened it. That's how many days is that? 15?
15, 30.
I don't think that part makes a whole lot of difference. If a player wants to go into the portal, he's going to go in, whether it's 15 or 30 or whatever days it's open. Yeah. Like if it's open, it's open. The part about it being in January is going to be interesting to see how that works, because you're going to have a lot of players on a lot of bad teams by the end of November that know that they're going to leave. And effectively, they're not going to wait until January 2nd to go into the portal. Officially, yes, but they all have agents, and they're all going to be talking to other teams, and teams that are not playing in the playoffs, even if they're in a bowl game, like whatever, bowl games don't matter anymore, are going to be building their teams in December for next year. So you're going to have a lot of behind the scenes things going on, and the people who report those things, our site and other sites, are just going to simply report X players planning on going into the portal. And that puts the word out that he's available, and other teams can quietly talk to the agent and make determinations about where he's going. And again, it's not going to be above board. Maybe it opens up people for scrutiny from the NCAA, but good luck trying to stop any of that. And it's kind of like NFL free agency. There's the legal tampering period, and then there's the tampering period before that. And occasionally the NFL will bust some people for tampering. I think they did the Falcons, right, with Kirk Cousins. But a lot of people know it's still happening throughout February. You go to the NFL Combine at the end of February, agents are meeting with GMs about free agents all the time. So I think December is still going to be a portal period. It's just going to be a little bit quieter. And officially all these things will happen. It's like the start of the league year in the NFL in March. It's just going to be the start of the year. January 2nd is when all these moves will officially happen. So I don't know if it changes much. I think maybe it helps some coaches who are into playoffs kind of keep some of that stuff on the back burner. But there's enough teams that are not in the playoffs that are going to want to build their teams. I don't think it really makes a big difference at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's not going to change a lot in terms of affecting the season. It's the losing the spring portal window that's the biggest change. And is it, and that's going to help coaches tremendously, or let them rest easily at the very least. Is it perfect? No, but I don't think there was a perfect solution, because ultimately college is still governed by the college part of it, which is you're on these semesters or quarters or trimester systems where you can't just put it in February. Right. Like, you got to get kids in school. They have to be qualified if you want them to participate in the spring. That's why there's always been part of me. It's like, why don't they just do a spring portal window and not do a winter portal window?
And that's,
you want your guys in there for spring practice. You're still going to have the bulk of your guys in there. So I think, again, it's what your preference is, but ultimately this is a better solution than what we had before. And Mike's right. It's 15 days. That ultimately doesn't matter. The guys who are going to go in, they already know right now if they're going in.
Right. And most of them have 1, 2, 3, or 4 schools that they're already talking. I mean, it's
This
You're
is
in the portal.
And if there is the report that someone's planning to enter the portal, it's almost quaint because they're not waiting for that.
Right.
They're these vast agencies now, in which there's literally an agency that's devoted to quarterbacks. So all GM has to do is call up and say, "Hey, who you got? Who's going to be open?" And they can have those conversations. And until they want to license agents, and then you can therefore revoke licenses when you're doing things you're not supposed to. It's just the way it's going to be. So again, it's a step in the right direction, but there is no perfect scenario here with college football, and you don't want to let perfect get in the way of better.
And the Big Ten wanted the spring only portal window. The other conferences didn't. They wanted the winter only portal because it's hard to build your team in May. Like if you're going to wait all the way till April or May to have the portal, and then you're trying to build a team in the summer, and then all of a sudden pull them all together and teach them a playbook and have it all come together by August, like that's tough.
Yeah,
so I think
Proctor hasn't participated in either spring practice, and he's your starting left tackle. I mean, half the defense wasn't participating for Alabama in the spring. I think some of that is a little bit overblown.
Yeah, I mean, you have
getting a guy in the portal who is experienced at another program.
Right. And Caleb Edwards and London Simmons came in the summer as freshmen, and they're playing more than other freshmen are. It's true that it just kind of depends on player to player. I think ideally still coaches want, I mean, we heard it last year, like how behind the eight ball Alabama was because all the coaching changes and transition, and you can't have a normal spring. And then this year they had a normal spring, and that was a part of their sales pitch, you could say, about this season, was that they had guys in there in January and February already knowing the playbook, and that gave him a longer runway. So there's a lot of elements to it. I think that, look, at the end of the day, I remember last November, you had reports about Alabama players planning to go into the portal. And that was 2 weeks before the portal opened in December. I think Kobe Prentice was one of them. There was a corner, I think, who was another one. Like that was already happening as it was. I think it's only going to be more the case now. So I think it's more of a change on paper, but I should mention an interesting change that they also made was about the coaching changes. So remember, the old rule was 30-day window as soon as there's a coaching change. So retirement, firing, et cetera. That's what happened to Alabama when Saban retired, at a 30-day window. So now it's going to be a 15-day window, but not until the new coach is in place, which I think is trying to give the new coach a chance. Again, the same thing holds true. If a guy wants to go into the portal following a change, Matt Zenitz or Pete Nakos or whoever is just going to tweet that he's planning on going into the portal from the agent. So does it really matter? I think it's at least on the surface, on its face, an attempt to give teams a chance when there is a coaching change. And that's a big thing, again, that Kalen has mentioned, how tough it was kind of on the fly trying to save everybody and keep the ship together when he got here. I don't know if this rule change will necessarily in reality change that, but I think at least on the face, it's something they're trying.
As with all things NCAA related, we should end this conversation with just wait until there's a lawsuit and we'll see if it holds up.
Right. And that's the thing. I mean, the transfer portal itself can be considered an antitrust violation. Mm-hmm. Like, who is the NCAA to say that you can't transfer outside of a certain window? With all of the other legal victories that the players' side of things has had, like, you can build a case that players should be able to transfer freely unless they're employees, unless there's a collective bargaining agreement. And ultimately, that's probably still where this thing is headed in the bigger picture. And this might just be kind of rearranging deck chairs in the Titanic.
And isn't part of the other part of the change is also there's no distinction for grads, right? It's everybody's in the same portal.
I believe so. I did not see that specifically, but
yeah, that cleans up some more stuff. I want to say that was part of it as well, but
there was the exception for grad transfers outside of the portal windows being able to go in,
because that's what my brain immediately goes to. How will people try to leverage the after portal window? And part of me wonders if it's high school recruits who have not yet signed all of their paperwork are now pressured. Hey, we've got a guy who left that we didn't expect. Suddenly we got a roster spot. Are you sure you want to go there? I know you announced, I know you signed this, but you didn't sign that. You're not enrolled yet. That kind of conversation. I wonder how much pressure that puts on guys who are not early enrollees.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. But we will continue to follow. And like Alex said, we'll just wait for for a lawsuit to drop, maybe, or probably so. Flipping to Missouri matchup, Alex had a great feature up about the offense, and looks like it's ready to explode through Alex's kind of words. Quote kind of stuck out, and he put it out there. Kalen DeBoer's cool with 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12s. Alex, go.
Yeah, I don't think he wants 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12s, but I think it's like for an offensive coach, the ultimate flex is to be able to say, I think we can convert it, because it's the hardest thing to do. And we saw last year how much trouble Alabama got itself in with Jalen Milroe as a quarterback, not having enough depth at receiver on top of that. When they got in those 3rd and longs that they didn't in crucial games, they struggled mightily. This offense, I think, with Ty Simpson distributing the football, with the depth they have at receiver, maybe the running game is coming along. I think there's a growing confidence that everything's at our disposal now, that they trust Ty to make plays, not just the big plays, but the little plays too. So I think, if you're looking for signs that this offense is starting to click with Ryan Grubb and Ty Simpson and Kalen DeBoer, I think they're there. And there have been some big games, but I don't think we've seen the offensive explosion against what we would talk about as a quality opponent. All due respect to Louisiana Monroe and Wisconsin, you know what you are. I think we're getting ready. I don't know if it's Missouri. I don't know that their defense is exactly rock solid, but I think there's a very real chance in my mind that this offense starts to take serious steps forward in terms of just putting a ton of points on the board. Because if you're a defensive coordinator, what are you supposed to do? Like, you lay back in coverage, hell, they're hitting Josh Cuevas for gains, and they're starting to work in the tight ends, and Ty can beat you with his feet. Alabama's not perfect, but man, they're going to stress you defensively.
When you say offense explosion, I think, maybe with all Alabama fans, I kind of revert back to maybe a couple years ago. Is it that much of an off, like the Mac Jones days with why not?
Look, or is that the reason why not is they don't have Najee Harris as a running back. Right. And I still think there are questions about this offensive line.
Yeah.
You talk about, they had a great day on Saturday against Vanderbilt running.
Yeah.
They did not have a great day in terms of protecting the quarterback, as much as Ty wants to take all the heat for that. And I commend him for it. 4 sacks weren't all on him. With 7-8 pressures were not all on him. There were breakdowns in pass protection. So I think that's why I say there's still work that needs to be done. But in the terms of the passing game, in terms of what we've seen them be able to do, like, again, that drive at the end of the first half was just like they got whatever they wanted. Now, will there be more difficult defenses that they go up against? Sure. But they passed the Georgia test. So is it 2020 all over again? I don't know about that. But I think you're getting closer to what you paid for, right? Like, this is what you paid for when you got Kalen DeBoer. So I talked about all offseason is you went to Washington to get that offense, which was a premier quarterback and premier depth at receiver, and they can attack you offensively on every piece of the field. That's what you're getting right now. So I think if you're an Alabama fan, you should be really excited about what it starts to look like when Ty Simpson has 6, 7, 8 games under his belt, when hopefully Ryan Williams gets over this, what I think is a confidence thing more than anything else, because, man, all the pieces are in place and they're starting to fall into place quickly.
What do you think Alabama's conversion rate is when it's 3rd and 10 or longer?
Probably like 30%.
21%.
Yeah.
And even if you disinclude is not the right word. If you exclude, I don't know why they disinclude. Even if you exclude the Florida State game, it's 22%. They had a long conversion as a Horton in the Florida State game. What do you think their conversion rate was?
It was good last year. The problem is you got to take away the games where they just got whatever they want, which was LSU, and that's difficult.
The first half.
Yes, it was high.
Because it was 21% is the answer. It was the exact same last year as it is right now.
Yeah.
On 3rd and 10s, and which is right around the middle of the country. It's in the 50s in terms of ranking for both cases.
What do your eyes tell you, Mike?
My eyes tell me that Jalen Milroe in a lot of cases had a chance to make things happen on 3rd downs that Ty Simpson's probably not as equipped to as a runner. But Ty Simpson's probably better equipped to make those plays on third down through the air, especially with the receivers that he has. So what that ends up at, in both directions, I don't know. But this is a team that did not convert some third downs in the red zone, especially in this past game, that would give me some pause going forward. One of those was a drop by Ryan Williams. Speaking of that, at the very end of the game, that was credited as a drop. So, it's not Ty's fault in that case, but I
think that's why you're seeing the frustration from Ryan Grubb and Ty Simpson. And that's why I started off my story talking about that, because when you hang 30 points on a ranked opponent and you're pissed off afterwards, it's a good sign. That means you knew you could do more. And I understand what the stats say. I'm not going to dispute that at all. But I watched what this offense was unable to do. Vanderbilt, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Michigan. Couldn't do anything in obvious passing situations. Nothing. This offense can, because it can hit you on every part of the field. Is it perfect yet? No. That's why I said it's getting ready to take off, not that it's landed yet.
You could be North Carolina. They are 1-17 on their third down conversions.
Nobody wants to be North Carolina.
I mean, there's some interesting teams down at the bottom. Florida is 0-15. Penn State 0-9. Wisconsin 0-15. And Texas 2-23 on 3rd and 10s and longer so far this season. So it could be a lot worse than where you are at Alabama, 21%.
I do want to make it clear. Kalen DeBoer was not saying we want to do that, but he was.
I don't think you want to live there at all.
They're comfortable. They're okay with it. They don't want to live there. They obviously want to live, third and short, in third and manageable, fourth manageable, things like that. You brought up a lot of Ty Simpson. I want to talk about him as well. In the last show, you brought up how you felt like he's a little bit hard on himself, and I kind of watched back on it, and I completely agree. And then you talk about, and then he's very, very critical of himself. I don't know if that's the coach's kid, that's the Nick Saban in him, that's just how he's wired, that's Kalen DeBoer, that's Ryan Grubb, however it may be. I think he was asked, and I know you guys were there, are you in the Heisman talk or something like that? And he used the word.
You were there. I missed that.
I was there. I actually asked him the follow-up that was like, hey, Caden Proctor said he's playing at a Heisman level, and that's when he said,
absurd.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and so is that ridiculous for him to use the word ridiculous, Alex?
Look, what he's doing, the second part of that quote is, you got to look at the offensive line and how well they're playing. You got to look at da-da-da-da-da-da. And that's great. Really good, Ty. That's what you're supposed to say as a quarterback. It reeks of Nick Saban in a good way, I guess. Or it's like, what's a better word for reek? Because reek has a negative connotation. But anyways.
Stank?
Stank? I mean, that could be a good, depends on what
Nick Saban-esque.
Yes. So, look, he's saying what he needs to say. There is part of me, if I'm like getting in the weeds, where he does get hard on himself, where I wonder, like, what are you going to do when you're not playing well and can you spiral? But again, that's why I thought it was important against Vanderbilt when he threw that interception to see how he responded, and he didn't spiral. So you're talking about a quarterback who's playing with a lot of confidence. He's going to always defer to his teammates. And again, there's part of it that's right, because I do think this receiver core is becoming elite. I don't think they're quite there yet. They're almost there in terms of what I think their potential is. But there are little pieces that need to fall into place. But Ty is playing at a really high level, and he should be in the Heisman conversation. And, I think there's still meat on the bone for him in terms of taking those checkdowns a little bit, not forcing them at times. I think he tries to make some hero plays when he doesn't need to, and he talked about that the other day. That's what resulted in that interception. I think there's still a little bit in terms of what he can do, getting more comfortable running the football. I still think there's a little bit of not quite sure when he wants to do it, which that's a quarterback. You're always going to sort of have that play. So he's right there. If we're handicapping the Heisman race, it's at what point did voters start going, wait, Carson Beck is really playing at a high level. And oh my gosh, if John Mateer comes back against Texas and wins that game, you're talking about the October Heisman. I know we talk about September Heisman, but I think he's going to be the runaway favorite at that point. So, it's an interesting thing with Ty. Heisman conversation is always interesting. Just don't expect Ty to participate in his own candidacy. That ain't happening.
When he says absurd, does he mean it's like it's false, or is he saying it's just like, oh, that's crazy to think about? You know what I mean?
No, I think he was saying it more along the lines of that shouldn't even be a thought because it's all these other guys who are getting the job done. Which, again, with all due respect, no. There are not that many guys who can he's making NFL throws right now. And I think that's why his teammates can say he's playing at that level, because they know he's just going to not participate in that, because I think there's a Saban piece of him that's like, it's rat poison, I'm not going to do anything with it. And there's probably a pragmatic piece, which is, let the other guys feel good about themselves. I don't need to be the center of attention.
Yeah, absolutely. You brought up, I'm trying to pull up the exact stats here, but you brought up that last drive against Vanderbilt. And I know Alabama had a big drive against Georgia at the end of the half too. They seem to be putting together in that last minute drill, and it seems to be very important for them in both games. I just want to point that out.
Yeah, the quick strike, and that was what was weird about the offense last year. They started out, it was like all or nothing. They just hit bombs early, and then it just went away, and the deep play just disappeared. The explosive play just disappeared. So it's good to see it come back, because it can swing momentum. If they hadn't gotten that touchdown against Vanderbilt, you're going into halftime feeling a lot different.
Absolutely. Flipping to kind of the defensive side of the ball, it sounds like it's a broken record with this defense. The run defense is the focus, and Missouri's got the running backs. There's not much more to be said there. Kalen DeBoer's talked about it. I think he was on Bustin' with the Boys, which is Taylor Wan and Will Compton podcast earlier this week. He had this quote. I'm going to read it verbatim. They are really good. They are dominating on the run game, both sides of the ball. Time possession, if we're not careful, you're not going to have the ball at all. That's like
it
panic, like,
and there's more because he also said, he was talking about Ahmad Hardy. Ahmad, I can't.
You better learn his name.
Is that a hard one to say?
Ahmad Hardy. Like, who's the guy who was on the NBA TV show?
Ahmad Rashad.
Right. I don't, for some reason, like that just doesn't flow off your tongue very easily.
Friend of Michael.
Yeah. So what did he say about Hardy? He said he has a missed tackle and shows up on film every other carry. He just keeps plays alive. People think they've got him down, and he's still running. The yards after contact just blow your mind. I don't know if it was just a setting that he was in, talking to a couple, ball players in Lewan and Compton, but he was a little bit different in that interview, just in kind of his tone. I think part of it's also, kind of playing the card as a coach, that you need to make sure you're taking your opponent seriously, which, as he kind of said Monday, like, why wouldn't you? Like, they're a top 15 team, undefeated team. Like, there's not, you don't have to look at this like, you're talking up an FCS team in November. Like, it's a little bit different. But to me, there's a lot of genuine being impressed with this Missouri team. You can sense out of Kalen. And part of that might be the connection that he has with Kirby Moore as well. Having coached with him at Fresno State, he was the passing game coordinator for DeBoer and Grubb for those 2 years. And he's now matched up or paired up with Eli Drinkwitz, who Drinkwitz also has coached against Kane Womack going back to the Sun Belt when Kane was at App State. So I think there's probably just a different level of respect having known some of these coaches a little bit longer. I think the same was true last week with Clark Lee, who DeBoer knows for a while too. But like, Kalen was very effusive, and then kind of got into what they were doing wrong against Vandy. And I think kind of had a stronger statement about that than I can really remember him saying, that there were some mistakes that we did early in the game that just can't happen. And he said, thank goodness that we have been through the fight and we didn't flinch. But then he said, if we have one of these teams, going on the road at Missouri, if we keep making those mistakes, they're going to get you, which is stronger terms than he typically uses that I can remember. Again, I think part of that is trying to make sure your team has the right mentality, but I think part of it's genuine as well. Like, this is a game that can very realistically trip them up, given how Missouri plays. And Missouri not only is very, very good on third down on offense, and you can put the huge asterisk up next to all their stats that they've played Central Arkansas and Louisiana and Kansas and UMass and South Carolina, but they are
third without Lenore Sellers, if I remember correctly.
Right. The same thing is true, I think, for Vandy. But they are third in the country in third down conversion rate on offense, which I think is right around 60%. Defensively, they're also at 20% at third down conversion, which is third in the country behind Oklahoma and Ohio State. And Alabama's defense has not been great on third down. They're 102nd in the country and giving up around 40% of third down. So how that all matches up when it's two teams of this caliber playing, I don't know. But it's interesting to see some of the stats. And I would imagine that's partly what some of these sports books are looking at when setting the line, where they have. And not only that, the line started at 3.5 or 4 in some cases, actually come down in Missouri's favor. So some of the bettors might be looking at some of those stats as well.
Yeah, it's there's an element of Missouri that you're not quite sure whether to buy in. Mm-hmm. But as you were going through what Kalen said, there was part of me that was like, I'm glad he said it, because I think if one of us said it, people would be like, oh, you're just hating on Alabama.
Right.
You can't get the first quarter out. You can appreciate exactly what Kane Womack did in the second half and that defense and how they turned the corner. But you can't forget what happened in the first quarter either. You can't forget what happened in the first 4 games, which is this rush defense was terrible. They were not gap sound. They missed way too many tackles. And you have to stack good days before we suddenly say it's fixed. And you're going against a team that, while we can talk about the level of competition, whether they're real or not, they're built to expose you in terms of what you're struggling with. And the fact that they can throw multiple backs at you, 2 really good backs and a quarterback who can run the football as well, and they're going to stay committed to it, to where you're going to have to rotate a bunch of defensive linemen. You're going to have to stay stout the whole game. It's a really interesting matchup, and I think in a way will tell us a lot about whether did Vanderbilt go away from the run too early and sort of play into Alabama's hand, or did they really fix something? I don't know what the truth is, but I think we've got a really good chance to find out on Saturday how good this defense can be. I still think there are talent deficiencies where I don't think it can reach elite or can get there, but I think they can fix these mental errors where you've got guys just out of alignment. It feels like, being too aggressive or not aggressive enough. There's not the right spot. So can they get that solved? Because Missouri is built to expose you if you don't.
And I don't mean to sound like Dabo Swinney, coach of the Clemson Tigers, by saying this, but Alabama is a few plays away from being 2-3. I think that the fact that they made those 2 red zone stops, the 4th down stop against Georgia, the LT Overton play, and then the Diego Pavia interception in particular, and then they had clock-killing drives right after that to just take the air out of the ball. And like I said, in this Vandy game, had a very key play at that 3rd down scramble by Ty Simpson, as Isaiah Horton, that people just don't talk about. Like, things don't go right. The ball doesn't go right in some of those cases. And Georgia realistically could have won that game. I think anybody can agree that. I think maybe it's a little bit more of a stretch of Vandy making all the plays in the 4th quarter, but Alabama made a key effing play by Keon Sabb's pick in that moment. And it's feasible that both of those games could have been lost by Alabama. And then it's a completely different conversation right now about a 2-3 team. So it's just not, my point being, this is not an Alabama team that can just walk into a stadium any Saturday and be like, we're good enough to beat anybody. Like, they have to make all the plays throughout the game for it to work.
But that's why the second part of what Kalen said, that thank goodness we've got that mental toughness that we can weather it when we do screw up, because that's the piece of it that we talked about on Sunday that I think is what's going to help them, is when they do have these issues that pop up, they know how to bounce back from them. That's why I think in some ways it's incumbent on the offense to just keep firing shots, because I don't know that we know how good this Missouri defense is necessarily. But at least they've got that part of it, that if they're not perfect on defense, they're not going to fold, because that's what it looked like, after that Florida State game. And they've slowly built up that armor that we can, the Vanderbilt game, yes, it could have been a lot closer. I didn't know that I ever felt that Alabama was in danger of being out of the game either, because they kind of shown those qualities.
No, they weren't out of the game. I think they were in danger of losing the game.
Yes.
If Vandy scores a touchdown there, Alabama gets stopped, Vandy kicks a field goal, whatever the case may be. Like, there's different like one of those books that you can choose your ending. But depending on how you're feeling that night, you can kind of have a happy ending or a sad ending.
Moving on. I did look. Alabama last time they played in Columbia, 2020, so it kind of tied it back to that 2020 offense. Alabama won 38-19. Mac Jones had 2 touchdowns. Jalen Waddle 8 for 134, 2 tutties. Najee Harris 3 touchdowns. So we talk about how the offenses looked a little bit different. I can't imagine that the running back this Saturday has more touchdowns than the receiving core. Back to 2020. We'll see. And then also trivia. I don't know. This was 2020
trivia.
The leading tackler on that team. In that game, 2020 against Missouri.
The season opener.
Not the season opener.
It was the season.
It was because it was.
Oh, that's right. It was.
Right. Dylan Moses.
Nope.
No.
Shaheem Carter.
Nope.
Daniel Wright.
Ding, ding, ding.
Woo!
Right.
That was a.
Wow.
I saw that and I was looking at it last night.
I never would have gotten there.
I'm asking this question. That was a great. He was productive. I don't know.
Just going down my 2020 national championship.
The only thing I remember from that game is that was the first time Bryce got in there, and there were little
humble.
You started seeing, but you could see little things there. I was like, "Ooh, he's different, man."
Yeah, and then
he was.
You proved pretty correct.
Shaheem Carter wasn't on that team. He was.
Bill Moses was a great guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Shaheem was 2019. Then he was undrafted, signed with the Jets in 2020. Yeah, so 2020 would have been Malachi Moore and Brian Branch coming in as freshmen, playing that spot, the star spot.
Time has passed. Mike's weather minute. I know I just put you on the spot here.
Oh, so it's a beautiful day in central Missouri. I'm looking forward to going up there and enjoying the sights. Where is it? Our friend James Spann posted his football weather tweet this morning. Said Alabama will be on the road to Missouri. The sky will be sunny with temperatures rising from the upper 70s at kickoff into the low 80s by the second half. There's your weather. 10 seconds. It looks like a beautiful day.
Beautiful
for football in the heartland, if you will.
Awesome. Well,
you want a basketball minute?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, there's a little basketball.
Yeah, we Oates opened up. I guess the official season on Monday press conference.
He did. Yeah, he did. And there's basketball media days next week, and then next Thursday they have their first exhibition game against Florida State, and that will be in Beltwell Auditorium as it was last year against Wake Forest. And as Nate did over the summer, or maybe more recently, he said this is potentially the best shooting team that he's ever had.
Has he said that every offseason?
It doesn't come to mind that he has. I think he
makes pronouncements. I don't know if it was that pronouncement, but
it's definitely
this is going to be the best X.
Yeah, right. It's a different tone this year than it was before last season. And obviously, last season there was more hype, there was more whatever, and they were top 3 in the country to start the season. Just didn't work out at the end of the day. They're going to be top 25 this year, probably somewhere in the high teens or low teens, depending on how you're looking at it, low 20s. And we'll have to see. I mean, they have a couple big games early between St. John's on the road and then Purdue at home that will probably determine if they stay in the top 25, if they move up, et cetera. But, Jaleel Bethea, he talked about it a little bit. He said, hopefully he's back soon. I don't imagine he's going to play in either one of those big games to start with his broken toe, but he'll be the one player that's out. Latrell Wrightsell is coming back still, and Nate talked a little about him still being on a load management deal after his Achilles injury last year. So if you're asking me who's starting game one, it's probably LeBaron Philon, Aiden Holloway in your backcourt. Houston Millett is probably another guy who can start, the fifth-year guy from Pepperdine who transferred here last year and ended up redshirting. I think they attributed that to a knee injury, but just also didn't seem like he was going to have a huge role in the team either. So they get another season out of him. And then obviously when you talk about this being potentially the best shooting team, I think fans naturally are like, well, what about the defense? What about rebounding? What about kind of the tough stuff? And we'll have to see on that. I think that's probably the bigger question mark. That's something even Erwin Dudley, when he was on the radio show a couple weeks ago, mentioned, like, this team's going to go as far as the bigs, bring them. And you have Aiden Sherrill, who's going to be playing a bigger role this year. You have Noah Williamson coming over from Bucknell. And Nate talked a little about him trying to get used to the pace of play being different. They brought in Collins Ojianaka. I got to get used to saying that last name, the freshman, who's 265. And Nate said, might help to kind of cover certain teams. You have Taylor Bowen coming in from Florida State. He's 6'10", but he plays more like a guard. So I don't know how much he's going to help kind of in the big conversation. So we'll have to see. It's another tough schedule, but it sneaks up on you all the time because there's always a lot of big football games going on. But this basketball team will be getting started next week. So there's your Hoops Minute presented by Bama247's Roll Pod sponsor.
There we go. Alex, Mike, anything else to put a final bow before we talk on Sunday following the conclusion of Alabama, Missouri?
No, I think I just think it's going to be interesting to see Alabama's energy level. I think everything they're saying right now is all pointed in the right direction, but man, it's a long season and they've got to keep responding. And I think that's why you're sort of hearing Kalen DeBoer make the comments he has, because I think he's continuing to try to warn his team and light a fire under his team at the same time. So we'll see how it pans out on Saturday.
Yeah. You can that's the right word, successively look at their next 4 games after this and be like, each one of those is tougher than the last. Mm-hmm. Like Tennessee might be tougher than Missouri. Going on the road to South Carolina still might be tougher than playing Tennessee at home, playing LSU at home, playing Oklahoma at home. Like there's a lot of playing Auburn on the road. Like it's the conversation, and Kalen's kind of talked about like guys have just gotten in that mindset of next game, like we got to prove it again next week. And I think that's the right way for this team to be looking at it, because it's certainly true that it's hard.
Yeah. Well, should be fun. Thank you guys for listening. This will be up in a couple of minutes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else you get your podcast, YouTube as well.